Imagine you're sitting at your desk, scrolling through endless benchmark videos, and the thought keeps popping up, do I really need a whole new tower, or can I just tweak what I have? You're not alone. Most folks who are serious about stepping up from a mid-range rig feel that same hesitation. It's a big decision because a pre-built gaming PC isn't cheap, and you want to be sure every dollar translates into smoother frames, quicker load times, and less tinkering later. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The iBUYPOWER Element SE lands right in that sweet spot of ready to play but not overkill. It comes with an Intel Core i5-14400F, an RTX 5060 with 8GB of VRAM, 16GB of DDR5 5200 RAM, and a 1TB NVMe SSD. On paper that sounds like a balanced mix for 1080p 144Hz gaming and even a decent jump to 1440p for many titles. But the real question is how those pieces behave together in a typical home setup, and where the compromises hide. First off, let's talk about the CPU. The 14400F is a 6-core, 12-thread chip that sits comfortably above the older 12th Gen i5 models you'll still see in many budget builds. In practice, you'll notice a smoother experience in CPU-heavy games like Civilization VI or Microsoft Flight Simulator, where frame rate dips used to be a regular annoyance. The F suffix means there's no integrated graphics, which isn't a problem because the RTX 5060 handles everything you'll throw at it, but it does keep the price a little tighter. The GPU is where the Element SE starts to differentiate itself from the entry-level crowd. The RTX 5060 isn't a flagship, but the 8GB of GDDR6 is enough to run most modern shooters at high settings without screaming for more memory. In a real-world test playing Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 2 at 1080p, you can lock in high/very high presets and still hover around 115,130 frames per second, which translates to a fluid experience on a 144Hz monitor. If you're the type who loves ray tracing, the 5060 does support it, but you'll quickly find the performance hit noticeable. Most users end up using DLSS to keep things smooth, which is a reasonable compromise. Memory is another area where the Element SE tries to future-proof you. 16GB of DDR5 at 5200 MHz sounds impressive, and it is, especially when you compare it to the DDR4 2666 kits that still ship in cheaper builds. In day-to-day use streaming, switching between a game and Discord, or tossing a few browser tabs open, the higher bandwidth means less stutter when the OS shuffles data between the CPU and GPU. That said, if you're planning on heavy content creation workloads like 4K video editing, you'll eventually feel the need to bump up to 32GB, but for pure gaming that 16GB ceiling is more than sufficient. Storage is a straightforward win. A 1TB NVMe SSD gives you quick boot times and near-instant level loads. In titles like Elden Ring or Cyberpunk 2077, you'll notice loading screens cut down from 20+ seconds on a SATA drive to under 10 seconds, and sometimes even less if the game has been cached. The downside is that the drive isn't user-replaceable without opening the case, which might deter folks who love swapping drives themselves. However, the case is designed to be tool-free on the side panel, so a modest level of DIY is still possible. Now, let's talk about the actual box you'll be opening. iBUYPOWER includes a matching RGB-lit mechanical keyboard and a wired mouse. They're decent enough to get you started, but they're not the kind of peripherals you'd keep for a long time if you're a serious competitive player. The keyboard's RGB zones are nice for aesthetics, but the key feel is more budget-oriented. If you already own a preferred mouse or keyboard, you can simply unplug and replace them. Nothing forces you to use the bundle. One hidden trade-off that often gets overlooked is the cooling solution. The Element SE uses a mid-range air cooler on the i5 and a single 120mm exhaust fan on the rear. In a well-ventilated room, temperatures sit in the low 70s C under load, which is fine for most users. But if you live in a warm climate or plan to overclock something, the 14400F can handle those. Temps can creep up, and you might start hearing the fan ramp up more often than you'd like. Adding an extra case fan isn't a huge pain, but it does add a small extra cost and a bit of noise. Who should actually consider this machine? If you're a gamer who wants a solid 1080p experience right out of the box, without the hassle of building, the Element SE checks the boxes. It's also a good fit for students or young professionals who need a capable workstation for both work and play. Think Photoshop, Lightroom, and the occasional game session. The price point lands it in the mid-range tier, so it appeals to folks who have a modest budget but still want a brand new system rather than a used one. Who might skip it? If you're chasing 4K gaming at ultra settings, the RTX 5060 will start to feel stretched. You'd be better off saving.